Hello everyone, and welcome back to a Gran Turismo video where you're looking at this race going, Tidge, we've already seen this one. This is a beat the meta. It was. However, do you remember what happened within that beat the meta? That is the question. Well, this video, if you haven't already guessed by the thumbnail and the title, is all about this, the pit lane. So we go into the pit lane then with the Genesis behind us. We're going to have the computer control the car, of course, as it goes into here. It's effectively a loading screen. I have seen the details behind the screen. You can select how long you want it to take to go through the pits, of course, but you either change tires or don't change tires. Now the Genesis doesn't change tires here. I don't change tires either, and what that should result in is me coming out ahead of the Genesis, but I don't. The Genesis just goes clean on by here, so that gives us a question here. Are cars at a disadvantage or an advantage like the Genesis in the pit lane? So we are going to jump to Interlagos then. Interlagos to tackle the most complex pit lane. And we are going to look at this from two tyre compounds as well. The hard tyre and the soft tyre. And see whether the differences are grip related or something else. Maybe it's with the computer. So we're going to look at Group 3 only on this video. We're going to test all the cars apart from one. I must say the McLaren F1 GTR is not in there because it's 20 million and it's not in the legendary dealership at the moment. That's the only car I haven't tested. I've tested all other cars, so 47 cars have all been tested. Let's jump to the worst car in the pit lane first of all, on the harder compound of tyre. Right, here we are then. We are in the Suzuki Vision Gran Turismo car. And what we do first of all, if you haven't noticed, we've just paused it right now. We go, or we start timing when it says auto drive. Okay, so I accelerate because that's the only way to start out the pit. It's when the auto drive symbol is up, then we start timing it. So we go into the left-hander. And you can see it's quite a complex pit lane if you are new to Interlagos. There's a few corners in it, and you can see the AI or the computer player is controlling it. I'm not going to call it the AI anymore because I did something with Sophie AI the other day, and that's completely different to this, like, scripted computer player, of course. We get to the end, and literally as it switches from the cockpit view, it goes into this mid-frame screen where it doesn't go to the right camera, and then it will go to the right camera. And we take that time because that's when auto drive essentially stops and your inputs actually start. Okay, so that's our measure. What we do is we take that time there. So we've got our start time, which is using the start time and the total time, and the end time, and we do the difference there, which is 21.305. This car is 1.7 seconds slower than the fastest car at Interlagos. That is a massive amount, I might add, in terms of racing terms. Now, the fastest car, weirdly, is the Viper, the Dodge Viper. 19.569 it does it in terms of the pit lane, which is impressive, really. And 1.7 seconds is huge. You think about qualifying, you think about your practice laps, you gain a 10th, you're happy. You're gaining 17 times that with just this. And you can see how we end the test there. I don't do any inputs. It's just a case of letting them go. What we're going to do now is a comparison. Okay, so again, we're starting them as the auto drive just comes on there. We're going to start accelerating. We're going to do this at 50% just to see where the differences are. So we're going to accelerate out of here. Now, automatically, I want to point out there, the one on the right, the Suzuki on the right, turned more into the pit lane than the Viper that I just went straight on. Really weird scripting, I must say. Really weird scripting in terms of the car there. So you can see we're already at a disadvantage here as we get to that line. So we're just edging him up there, and it was 1.5 seconds essentially there in terms of that. Now I'm using visual references here, so it could have been a little bit more because you've got field of vision, etc. So we're going to watch him as they go down here, same miles per hour as they go through that left-hander as they accelerate out. Then the Viper's actually accelerating much quicker than the Suzuki as we go into the right-hander. Similar. Oh, the Viper's keeping it 51, Suzuki at 50, so it's losing out in corners as well here. The computer player is struggling in that Suzuki versus the Viper. Look on the left-hander, real more speed in the Viper, really more speed. So this is significant in my opinion because remember in the pit lane, and as you saw at Grand Valley, you are a ghosted car. So that Viper can actually accelerate through the Suzuki and gain a position like that because it's 1.7 seconds faster. You can see it's finished there on the left-hand side. We're still waiting to finish on the right-hand side. We finished on the right-hand side. It's another 0.2 of a second-ish there, of course. It doesn't quite add up to the 1.7, but trust me, it does add up. It's just because I'm using visual references on that first part there. So, where are your favourite cars in terms of the leaderboard on this hard compounder tyre? Well, here we go with the leaderboard then. Viper at the top, the Citroens up there, the 4GT LM race cars that they're similar, which is interesting because maybe they're scripted the same way. I'm not too sure. But all these cars are under the 20-second margin there. But you see, these are all 4 or 5 tenths off now the leader. You know, it's not even the meta cars in this, to be honest with you. The meta cars are not near the front. The endurance model is there, you see. We go to the next page here. The Lexus, we know, is up there in terms of performance from the car profiles. That's not up there. We've got weird cars like the Volkswagen Vision Gran Turismo car there in P26. We go to the 31 to 40 here. Now we're going to the real slow cars now. These are well over half a second slower now. 6-7 tenths slower. And again, we've got the 4GT race car in there. And finally, the cars at the bottom of the pack here. The Mazda RX Vision Gran Turismo car. Look how low down it is. The Toyota Supra. Really low down. Really interesting. But the Suzuki is miles off the pace. I have no idea why that car is the way it is. But you're probably going, Tidge, when we do a pit stop, we don't go to a complete stop in terms of our control and then pull out the pits. So that test is a bit irrelevant. Well, it's not. As you saw with the Suzuki, it still lost over 2 tenths of a second from the pit line-ish to the exit. So what I've done actually is look at from the lights, as in where the light is, green or red, whether you can exit the pits, to the exit, and I've actually put that into a table as well. So here is that table then, and the Citroen is at top. So the Citroen is the best in the pits. That's a news flash for you. The Ferrari up there as well. The Mazda, obviously we know that is a meta car. That is up there in the pits. So not only is it good at fuel and tyres, it's also good in the pits apparently as well. As we jump to page 2 here. Again, well, there's a contender there. Nissan GT-R, Nismo GT3, 18. Just get these. These are all very close now. So we are getting to the point where this is like the proper pack there where you don't really lose time picking any of these cars. We've got the Sprint model there. Now, I can tell you the Sprint model and the Endurance model are basically the same there in terms of the pit lost time. As we go a bit further down, we've got the Mazda Tenza down in P40 there, 16.8. So we're looking there, 3 tenths off. And then we get to the real slackers down here. The WRX Super GT 500. Peugeot Vision Gran Turismo car and that Nissan Skyline Super Silhouette. So that's actually bottom there by over a second, I think. No, it was 8 tenths of a second, wasn't it? So what we're going to do then is we're going to jump to that Skyline Silhouette and we're going to look at that same test now on the softer compounded tyre. And we'll look at the softer compounded tyre, see if any surprises come up or whether it's just the same once again. Right, here we are with the Skyline Silhouette then. So just to explain this a little bit, made it even more complicated because it's a right-hand drive car. I look at those lights on the right-hand side. Now, when it's a left-hand drive car, it's at the edge of the screen. On a right-hand drive car, like this one here, I do 6 frames back. That's what I do in terms of the test, because I feel like that's about the same in terms of left side and right side. I can't control the camera. It is what it is. But we go from that point then, and we just let the AI do its driving here as we go through the right-hander and accelerate through. Now, I can see why this car is going to be the slowest, because, of course, it's got that heat shifter, hasn't it? And it's just going to take that little bit longer to shift. And I assume that's why it's the slowest. We do stop it as we did before. And obviously we take the time at those lights and the time at the end of this. And we do the difference of that. And that gets us an overall time in terms of the lights to the end of the pit lane to give us an idea of the time. What I've done then is I've done the totals for the soft time and the mid difference as well. So a lot of calculations going on here. In terms of the totals, no real changes there in terms of the Viper. It's still at the top. Citroen's P3 there, but we know what the Citroen's like afterwards, of course, on the hard tyre. We'll see if it's the same on the softer compound of tyre that we've done here. And as we go through, you're seeing the drop in time. So what was it? 19.1, I think it was, in P1. So we're already 3 tenths down here. And that's with it setting off from that box. Okay, do remember that when it is accelerating from that box, it's a case of standing, start, and go, whereas when you do a race, it's obviously the video clip in and then a video clip out, and then it's essentially from the lights, which I am going to show you in a second as well. We are going to look at that difference in terms of the times. At the bottom there, the Suzuki Vision Gran Turismo, it just suffers from starting from the box. So I assume if you're going to do qualifying, don't pick the Suzuki Vision Gran Turismo car because it's so slow out of the box. We go to that traffic lights in terms of the end of the pits and the difference there, and the Citroen is top with the Ferrari following close behind there. That could be a frame difference. That is all that could be. The Mazda once again was in P3 there. As we go to the second page then, these guys are all 2 tenths down essentially, so there is some performance loss there, and that could be a case of ghosting through the cars as we go forward, but it's very close in this mid pack. It seems that the softer compounded tyre, or the softer the tyre is in terms of grip level, so there's more grip, the closer this all becomes. So the AI is limited to a certain extent, but when you have the hard tyre in there, that's where the AI struggles to keep up then as it follows the line. So it's interesting how they may have programmed this to do the pit lane. As you see here, we're only 7 tenths down in the Skyline Silhouette, whereas on the harder compounded tyre, we were much further down. Very significant that, but a nice little test there that we've done, and it does show that there is some performance in there in terms of the pit lane, in terms of what car you pick and how fast it can go in the pit lane. Obviously, this is the Extreme with Interlagos. That's all the data for you. Let's do a final test and let's see if that video clip is identical on the fastest car and the slowest car that we've deemed, which is the Citroen and that Skyline Silhouette. Right, here we are then, leading up to the pit lane. I've lined these up exactly when it changes to the tyre choice, though. So as we go in, it might look a little bit different, but as we line it up and go into the pits, you're going to see it change over. Now, is there any difference between the times here? Not that I can see at the moment. A little bit different graphics. No, same graphics there. Same video clip here. Oh, different clip there that they're using. And this is that delay that I say exists. And you can select this actually in the secret dev option. There is a time there. We set it once at World Finals to 2 minutes. And that was quite a wait. But they came into the pits at the exact same time there. Question is this clip going to change at the exact same time? It is indeed. So, the pits on the pit box to the entry, that didn't matter for us. And you can see the stop duration there, exactly the same. That's all good. So even though we did that test, it was worthwhile doing for qualifying. The question is there a difference at the exit, which is what we also tested there when we did the traffic lights to the exit. And as we get there, you can see there is nearly a 4/10 gap there. And that is literally the test done in a nutshell. Very interesting indeed. In fact, that gap's even larger, I suspect, because of that time at the top, 23.491 to 24.158. That looks around that 7/10 gap that I was talking about. Very interesting indeed. That time code down at the bottom there, that's generated within Premiere Pro. So obviously there might be a slight variation, and that's why I used the times that I mentioned at the bottom left earlier on in this video. That's how I judge it accordingly. So yes, it looks a bit weird, looks like it's slightly off, but the whole point of this video and what I'm trying to show you right now is there are performance differences between the cars in the pit that you can't control. You're always fighting for the extra tenth, yet there are cars here losing half a second in the pits. And you can't control that. You cannot control that. Now, obviously, the shorter the pits, the less of a problem this becomes because they all become very equal in a very short pit lane. Do keep that in mind. And again, this video is just for information purposes to put that information out there. And I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with all the latest content. I do appreciate all the support that you do give me on this channel. Honestly, a big thank you. And that did mean I got to go to the GT Sophie event that I did. That was filmed for the BBC. Make sure you check that out over Christmas, of course. And also managed to race Steve for the PlayStation charity event as well. Again, a big thank you for watching. And I do hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.